Good morning. Good morning. The music seemed maybe appropriate. So ad blocking, not a topic that probably needs a lot of table setting. I know it's been a theme since yesterday. And it's probably got more velocity, I think, from my perspective, than even maybe more than viewability and what we saw, last year. So I think Brian and I were up on stage in Vail, and we talked about this might be the big rising issue of this year. So we're seeing it. Just kind of some factual, the facts, and just kind of collecting those. Can you all just close your eyes really quickly? Thank you. Raise your hand if you have installed an ad blocker on your desktop. Your eyes are closed. Oh, really? Okay. And then raise your hand if you've installed it on iOS 9 since yesterday. All right. Anybody raise your hand, you can leave the room immediately. You have to know your, absolutely. No, I think that's vital. So let's start there. What's beautiful about this event I love is that it's publishers and the technology companies coming together. And the one thing you all have in common is you also are consumers. So let's start there. Patrick, from the consumer perspective, have we been paying enough attention to them? What is the reason that we've seen this sudden adoption? And what's your take on the consumer angle?
Well, I mean, the research that we've done with Vision Critical says that most people that install an ad blocker is because they've heard about it. So, when you look at that data, you're saying, okay, well, is it because of the experience or this or that? I mean, some people like to try to, block ads. I mean, it's pretty natural. But the thing is that what we haven't been able to do, I think this is a canary in the coal mine, to say, hey, we're not providing a kind of a user experience that is needed, because we know that this relationship between publishers and advertising works. And so we're seeing this as a way that a wake-up call to say we need to work better to improve the experience for consumers and better understand that relationship, because we have to have a way that publishers can pay to develop the content that everyone's consuming, because the ad blocking profiteers are going to just destroy the industry if we can't pay for things. Yep. So we feel that absolutely it's time to focus on this. Not that we haven't done a great job already, but I mean, we're getting indication that we need to do a better job.
Yeah. So on that indication, Ashok, coming from the publisher perspective, ad blocking's been around since pop-up blockers in 2000, and you could argue when you turn off auto-load image back in Netscape Navigator back in the early days. So what changed in the last couple of years?
So again, I would see this from two perspectives. One is again the user impact, how intrusive ads or many things are there, but also I think it could be a generic thing. Like the good old, or probably whatever, a decade ago, there were these flashing ads. Oh, you are the 1 millionth visitor. When you compare to those days, advertising has definitely progressed a lot. Ad blocking was not prominent then. But I think some of the industry phenomenon could be fueling it as well, like extensions are more common. As an individual user, when compared to 2 years ago, I have more extensions on my Chrome browser, I have more apps on my phone. So similarly, I think people are more used to these extensions, and I think ad blockers also reach that critical mass where the word of mouth is possible. And the very nature of ad blocking is that it is free. There is no downside to it. Why can't I just install it? It's not even as hard as installing a DVR.
Yeah.
So
that's an important point. I compare it to cigarette smoking, where you get the benefit immediately, right? But the cost to our industry comes, maybe comes later. So, Patrick, on the advertiser side, because at the IAB you very much focus on advertising. The agencies and the advertiser side, what's their reaction to this? Do you have a take on it? Are you seeing them engage on it, or does it not matter in their world right now?
Well, I mean, I think it's everybody's responsibility here. We can't just put the responsibility on the publisher. I mean, this is the marketer's message that's being blocked. So we've been working and continue to work with the advertising and marketing community to work to try to make efficiencies, and also we feel that a lot of the latency that comes in, the advertising and the experience is because of the requirements that advertisers put on the publishers in order to, deliver their message. So, clearly as we work on trying to, reduce the effect of ad blockers overall from the industry, we have to work very closely with the marketing community.
Yeah. What about the point about the increase in pixels and the requirements from the advertiser side? Anybody that's studied the grand Lumascape chart has seen that grow over the years. There's more pixels on pages. There's more companies. I think this room is a testament to all that growth in ad tech, which is very much a good thing in terms of human power, innovation, and jobs, et cetera. But the ad tech community, is there a response? I may get thrown out of the room for this, but what's the responsibility of the ad tech community, and how much to blame are they, or what can we do there to engage?
Yeah, I think it's, when you look at the data, most people put on ad blocking because they've heard about it. It's not because the ad tech companies are doing this or doing that, but I think the ad tech companies have been able to create technology that provides relevant advertising. But the problem is that, with the proliferation of people that are getting involved in the exchange of data and the multiple calls for data in the transaction, that's causing latency. And that's a problem. And that's a problem that we all need to figure out how to solve, because there's value in data and value in personalizing the experience. So you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
You want to make sure that there's the right balance, and figuring that out is some of the work that the IAB is doing from a technical side.
Yeah. No, I think the IAB is a vital organization in this issue, because you've got kind of the big tent. I come from the world of just the premium publishers, and you've got the whole supply chain, right? And you've got the ad tech companies in there, and so I think I applaud that you're diving into the topic. There's billions of dollars that have gone into ad tech, and really the consumer piece of that hasn't been a focus. It's really been about delivering ads and efficiencies. Is there opportunity, do you see, like as a publisher? Ashok, do you see opportunity for ad tech investments to go into caring about the consumer again?
So again,
even though they don't touch the consumer?
Yeah, even if you leave ad blocking out of the equation, as publishers we have been working on these to make sites load faster. I think there is so much change and so much rapid innovation in the market that we are throttling to find resources to actually understand everything. So there are product managers who KPIs are site speeds, and also we are working in tandem. The thing is, sometimes you just have something which might be impacting. So now you put ad blockers on top of it. I think there is a lot more reason to pay attention. And I think it's not just hurting publishers. We are paying the most attention because we are at the front end of it. But I think it does impact ad tech, and at some time even advertisers. Hopefully, as Patrick said, I think we all will come together to find ways to address these issues.
Yeah, very much a common theme is industry-wide, and we need to come together. iOS 9 launched yesterday. How big of a deal? Ashok, from your perspective. Content APIs are now available. Any Apple developer can now go build an ad blocker.
So initially, I was hoping and wishing that there is an year before we actually have this critical mass coming on mobile too. But looking at last 2 days data, some of the top paid apps, both in US and UK, are actually ad blockers. That's a scary thing. So I think the adaptation could be much faster when compared to desktop. So we should be wary of that. It could impact the future. But on the other side, I want to think probably it's maybe not as scary as it is, at least in the short term. Of course, it's going to impact the future. So of my mobile users, 50% are on apps and 50% are mobile web. So hopefully the apps are safe. And among the mobile web usage, only 25%, 50% are on Android and 50% are on iOS. So again, this is wishful thinking. So maybe my maximum exposure there is relatively limited. And also, if you look at the revenue, if I have to take what Mike from Forbes yesterday shared, 50% of his audience is on mobile, but only 10% of revenue is on mobile. So maybe we have some breathing space before we have time to address this.
It's an optimistic approach. Yeah, mobile CPMs are 70% lower than desktop and tablet, so the revenue isn't there, but the audience is absolutely right going there, and so that's the scary thing. You also, from a Reuters perspective, have a big international audience. Ad blocking has a much higher penetration In Europe, particularly in Germany, it's 20-25%, according to multiple data points. What's different in Europe versus here? in your mind?
So again, one caveat I have here is we are definitely global, but the way we operate in different countries is different. But US and UK are our biggest markets in terms of audience and revenue, and of course Japan as well is. So I think here probably UK is on the higher end, whereas US is between, Japan is still catching up. But I think we are seeing this as global phenomenon. So
Can you unpack that though? Is there something that's different about that audience, do you think, or anything you've seen? Patrick, from your IAB is very much international organization. Is there
Right. I mean, it's. I think it's a behavior that we've seen, across the world. I would say that, some just have evolved faster than we have. But when you look at the solutions, you can't just look at it from one market. You have to look at it globally.
Yeah.
And one of the IB Tech Lab, which we founded this last year, has a global remit. So we are working on bringing companies from around the world to help work on this issue. And we're sharing our best practices as well with our member IB colleagues throughout the world. So we're treating this as a global
issue. Is there any common recommendation that you've been able to make yet in terms of, you've got, let's block those users, they're of no value to us, which is like, let's just cut them off, to testing and engaging with the audience, to ignoring it for now and just kind of seeing how it develops?
Well, what we're doing now is we're encouraging our members to experiment, to see what works and what doesn't work, and then share that information. I mean, if you look at what your options are, you can cut off the content unless they turn off their ad blocker, and our research says that 60% of the people would do that. So that could be a solution. There are others where you might want to do a speed bump, or maybe even set up a paywall, some way. And I've even heard of actually barter kind of arrangements where a user was great at sharing the content, so they said, well, we want to make sure that they still come to our site. So we're learning. It's a learning process, and once we see what works, and it could be different for different types of sites, obviously. But it's really about a knowledge gathering.
Have you heard of any? I think that's absolutely fabulous. It's as fast and as hysterical as this issue may be. Everybody is still level setting and learning, and so sharing and learning from each other is critical. Have you heard of any hints of solutions that, the solutions that we just mentioned are all not better for the consumer, right? Like you mentioned, road bumps, right, or speed bumps. Blocking them certainly is not a good consumer experience. Whitelisting your ads or finding a way to hack so your ads can get through the ad blocker seems like something maybe that's not a consumer-friendly experience because they didn't want the ads. Have you heard of anything that's consumer-focused that actually would be a net positive for the consumer that has ad blocking?
Well, I think it's having that relationship, that communication. One thing that I hadn't brought up, but I think is also really important, and the research proves that out, is security and safety. A lot of people are putting ad blocking on their computers and smartphones because they're worried about malware and other things like that. So, we're working with the Trustworthy Accountability Group, with the 4As and the ANA to try to create a trusted environment, for consumers. So, when you look at what's good for consumers, creating a trusted environment, creating content that's great, and working with advertisers and marketers to create experiences that are relevant and meaningful to the consumer. So you can't just really isolate one thing and say, well, this is bad for the consumer, but I think it's like there's got to be some sort of transaction. Somebody's got to pay for the content. How do you do that? So trying to find that balance, and we all have different ways they like to consume content and different sites you want to go to, and it may be different, and it will be different depending on a variety of different factors.
That's an important point. Do you see a distinction in the acceptance of advertising or certain types of advertising based on the context of where it's running or the type of content it's in front of? Does that matter, or is it one size fits all?
No, I mean, it's I mean, a huge variety of different things. I mean, we do know, though, based on the research, is that flashing ads, are just not really popular with people, or preloaded ads that run, before you even see them.
Yeah.
These are things that we know that if we can reduce those, if not eliminate them, then that's going to help and improve the consumer experience.
Yeah. I guess I'm hinting at a little bit there. There's people compare this to a tragedy of the commons dilemma where the worst parts of the web affect maybe the best parts that shouldn't be impacted. And we see that with a lot of issues, right? And that's the way the open web works, and that's a beautiful thing. But I, at least as a consumer, are very more open to a pre-roll video ad before some Reuters news that I really want to see versus some crappy slideshow of celebrities, right? So unfortunately, it's the latter that might, and that's not saying all slideshows about celebrities are crappy, but there are some bad ones that that you get in your little widget box at the bottom of the page. So, there's a different level of tolerance, I guess. Give me we only have 2 minutes left, 1 to 10, Patrick, on 10 being, and I was asked this question on I did a 45-minute podcast on ad blocking, that came out yesterday, on my views on it. I was asked by a fellow at Harvard on 1 to 10, where would you put this? 10 being, oh my God, the sky is falling. Ad blocking, where would you put it? 1 to 10.
I would say that it's probably 5 to 6,
okay.
Because I mean, this is not new. We at the IB have heard about ad blocking for years. We've been looking at it for years. I mean, our membership has a wide variety of different type of content, and we've had some that have been dealing with large percentages blocked.
Yep. And
others that haven't. I mean, right now we're kind of getting to a tipping point where we are getting these numbers, you've seen them, that are alarming. And there are ways to work through this. And if we all work together, it will never eliminate the issue, but we'll be able to manage to it.
Yeah.
And it's not just on the publishers; it's the advertisers as well that have to work together to create these great experiences and make sure that their messages can get to the consumer, because ultimately that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And I would encourage everybody in this room to engage with the IAB, particularly ad tech companies, on this issue, and your advertisers, making sure they understand the effect when they ask for 3 more pixels in some sort of campaign. What about you? 1 to 10.
So I would say it is also at like 5 to 6, but it is very quickly going to 7, 8, or even 9. Like if it is 20% today, in a year it could become 40, 50%. When you say digital is the future, and that future is
right.
very much in threat, I think it could very quickly rise up to 8 or 9.
Yeah. I said 8 or 9, just for the answer.
And the cost will go up, because it's going to have to be, you're going to have to customize things
yep.
more and more and more, and there'll be a cost because of all the other things that are in the way. So you definitely want to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much. Oh, questions?
One thing that wasn't mentioned is that a lot of the mobile carriers themselves are looking to block ads before they even come to the page. The reason they're doing that is because these ads, the flash, the videos, they carry a lot of bandwidth, which comes with a lot of cost to these carriers, and they're not getting a piece of the pie. So besides everything that's going on with ad blockers using the extension, that's another very big piece to be concerned for publishers, which I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And as a comment on what's going on, I think we've heard over this conference that a lot of people, different publishers, are taking different approaches on how they see ad block. Well, I think we should do it this way. I think it should be this way. I think there needs to be a more unified approach across all publishers to deal with this manner and make sure that it's consistent. Because if one publisher cheats on that unified system, then they'll maybe get a little bit more revenue, but it's going to impact everyone else. If all the publishers united, block them, or give some different alternative, they wouldn't have where to go to. They would either have to enable it, or they wouldn't be able to consume anything. And I think that's a thought that we should keep in mind and work together. And maybe the IAB is kind of the leader of everything, gather a meeting and really address this before it comes to a point where we're chasing everyone, and that mouse and cat game between the ad blockers and trying to overcome them, that's not coming to an end. There's got to be a one solution that's going to overcome all this. And I think the more we wait, the worse it's going to come, and you're better off addressing it as soon as possible. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I made one comment on that.
There's antitrust issues.
Yeah,
to be careful about,
I represent 65 premium publishers that all care about their consumers. And so I've been very focused on the consumer side. I was in the room with 30 of them in London last week. They're all working on the problem. The solutions have to be consumer focused, and coming together and blocking consumers as a group is a very bad idea for a variety of reasons, including
we're
one
not,
you mentioned.
we're not waging war on the consumer. It's against the profiteering ad blocking companies, and we're working on. We have a weekly senior meeting to deal with this issue, and we want to bring together the community as much as we can and work together to try to solve it. So
great.
Your point's well taken.
Okay, that's unfortunately all we have time for. But thank you. We're over. We're over. Thank you. No, that's great. That was a really good session. Thanks, appreciate it.